You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. So we do have four teams remaining in the Senior Football Championship after weekend, eight in intermediate, and the relegation finals to come in senior and intermediate. Kilconly and Menlaw will take place next weekend. It was refixed, and the loser of that will play Williamstown in the intermediate relegation final. Eddie, before we get into the action, last time you were on the podcast, we didn't really know where Uachtaráid were. We didn't know where they're going to get through to the knockouts. You managed to scrape through against Clare Galway. Then, obviously, you get the big result against Milltown, and unfortunately for the weekend, just come up short against Mike Cullen. The scoreline definitely does flatter Mike Cullen for anyone who was at that game. But overall, how do you reflect on 2024 with Uachtaráid?
Good season, Paul. I suppose we'd have to be content with any season where the only probably teams to beat us were Tuam, Salthill, Cullen and Corofin. And I've averaged out in my head it's around 4 points. I think when you average out the four teams, what the bet is by. So we are realistically probably that bit off those teams now. To bridge a gap like that is easier said than done. But yeah, no, we'd have to be fairly happy going through the league campaign unbeaten, getting the big win against Kilgalway and the big win against Milltown. For us was very important because probably up until now, the main teams we'd probably beaten in senior outside of the relegation group were kind of like, we suppose clubs that are probably teetering at the edge of senior anyway. So it was good to finally beat two well established senior teams and I suppose two teams like Milltown were in the semi final last year and Kilgalway would have been eyeing up eyeing up a semi final this year and probably even a bit more. Now it was probably just unfortunate, I suppose, on all the teams in our group really that you realistically had four teams that were well capable of being in a quarter final. So, but we to come out of that group now, yeah, we'd have to be very happy with that.
Just looking at the makeup of your team, the younger players, James Webb, Ryan Monaghan, Key Monaghan really stepped up this year, and old Garrett, yourself and Ronan Malloy still going strong.
Ah, sure. The only thing that keeps Malai going is he can still beat me in the fitness test. That's that and a stubbornness that he doesn't want to see me out survive him on the team. So I'd be convinced once I go, Malai will go. But yeah, no, the younger lads and like James Lowry, Adam Tierney has been excellent this year, and James Lowry, we wouldn't have had much of him as a club in general because he was involved with Connacht underage a lot, but he has really announced himself as a serious weapon for us. He was in with the under 20s in the early stages last winter, but we didn't have him all the league because he was doing his leaving cert. And unfortunately for us, his parents had made the decision it was rugby only while he was doing the leaving cert. But like he made some contribution in our championship games. I do anyone I'd be chatting about when we played Corofin, they were all over us until he basically turned them over and ran the length of the pitch and nearly stuck it in the back of their net. And it was kind of a far more conservative Corofin approach after that. So he's made a huge impact for us. But yeah, no, it's great to have them lads step up to the plate. I wouldn't probably include the Monans in that because they've been probably leading the way for us for 5, 6 years now. The two of them probably came straight out of minor and started leading the way for us. I always found it funny. I'd say one of the first time we ever lost a league game with the two of them playing. They literally were warming down after the game. We lost to James's down in Uachtaráid, and the two of them basically stood up in the middle of us at the age of 17 and 18 and basically said, "This isn't good enough." And basically went on that we need to do much better to be getting wins. So they've from the day they came out of minor, they were making themselves known as leaders of the group. So, but yeah, great to have Adam and James Webb had a great season. Very powerful for us this year.
Ryan and Keane in particular really looked like two lads who are hungry this year to get back in with Galway for next year.
Yeah, I don't know it'd even be just to get back in with Galway. They are just kind of that's just their nature. Like they like to if they go doing something, they like to do it right and do it well. And like no better men to apply themselves now because they will never miss a train and never miss a gym session. And if they do miss one or the other, you can be sure it's a fairly serious injury. But they both have on the back of their championship displays have a great shout of getting a bit of in training and over the winter because, like, I suppose the one thing when you're a club of our size, you probably require a good bit more of a contribution from the likes of them two lads and the likes of James Webb than perhaps, if you're in a bigger club with more options.
Just before we touch on the four quarterfinals, is there a gap between the top four teams and the rest of the teams in the Galway Club Championship?
Yeah, you'd have to say there is a bit of a gap, but I suppose like as much as I say there is a bit of a gap, like Killannon gave Corofin plenty of it on Sunday, like um and like ourselves, Kilconly, we've all given I suppose Corofin a good rattle so far, but then the one caveat I'd say is Corofin are probably preparing for bigger fish down the line. Like Dumore gave Mike Cullen plenty of it. So I'd say on a given day, the gap probably isn't as pronounced as it actually is over time. Would say so. Like probably realistically, there is four ahead of everyone else. If you were to average out over time, they're probably 4 to 5 points better than everyone else. Now they might often win no more than Mike Cullen against us by year 6 or 7, but it's oftentimes because when you're playing a championship game, if you're three down going into the dying embers of the match, you may as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb at that stage and just go for it. And inevitably, the odds
Is
are
that
you.
just because bigger squads and more depth with all those four teams compared to the rest?
Probably bigger squads, but they probably have that bit more quality throughout the team where possibly their best 5, 6 lads mightn't be as good necessarily as other clubs' best 5 or 6 lads, but a number 12 through to 18 are probably that bit ahead of your guys, and it probably gives managers more options. Like, they're probably not keeping Ronan Maigh and Eddie O'Sullivan going into their 30s, where a club like Oughterard has to no more than Middletown have to keep a Carl Blake going. Like they probably don't have to resort to that. I know Corofin probably have Gary Sice and that, but like Gary Sice was a top quality inter-county player in his peak. Like so, it's probably a lot of that, and it's probably they can probably throughout the year probably train at a bit of a higher intensity because like, especially when you get to championship games and in between championship matches, when you're in a smaller club and you have smaller numbers, training has to be far more tailored and far more managed because you can't afford to be like say for us, like we lost Eric Lee with the cruise ship, but if you lose one or two more, it's down the way you're looking. It's try to stay in seniors where you're looking like, and there'll be a lot of clubs like us that, once you're down two, three, four lads, you're looking down the way and not up the way. Whereas if you're in the big four clubs, you're always looking up the way, and you can afford 4 or 5 lads carrying niggles and still be putting out a very good team. Like take probably Tuam for example. Like there's probably 22, 23 lads that all believe they can start for Tuam.
Is there the four teams that are left there? Do you think any of those four teams can win Frank Fox?
Yeah, I think that all four of them can feasibly win it for probably different reasons. Um, like you'd probably you'd probably anticipate the winner may come from the Corofin Salthill game, but like the winner Tuam, Mike Cullen will be very well set for it too. Like so, like all four teams and we've played all four of them this year now, albeit Salthill and ourselves didn't have county seniors in the league final. Well, like Salthill have a they have a very good setup defensively, very well organised when they do go defensive, and a great ability with what they have up top to really hurt you without killing themselves. Like, as in they turn you over, it's two kick passes, and you're picking the ball out of the back of your net. Like so, yeah, I'd say that would be the main thing. Corofin, huge strength and depth, probably probably don't bring the same level of star power maybe as Salthill, as in like Dylan McHugh's probably better than Salthill's best player, but then John Maher is arguably better. But then after him, Rob Finnerty, Kyle Sweeney, their star players and they have 5 of them are very, very good. But then like you've Tuam, very well organised. Dave Donnelly's done a great job there. They've had the fresh youth probably come through this year, like that one or two lads that adds to it, and then you probably have like McCullen, like they were bringing on Jardavern, they're bringing on uh
Neil McKay.
Neil Mackay, Neil Mackay 18 months ago was in with Galway seniors, like, so, Ger Davern had a stint in with them, like, that's serious players to be bringing off the bench. So, like, yeah, all four of them with the players they have in their squad would be fancying their chances. And all four of them probably have their where they're lacking to. But yeah, it's probably going to come down to probably one, two things. Probably who can keep the composure in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Because like if there's only one or 2 points in both games, which you'd imagine they'd be thereabouts. Like it's who's going to score the freeze, who's going to drag the game out in the melting pot in those few minutes to win it by a point, win it by 2 points.
It's a positive though because I know everyone will talk about this weekend and say, "Oh, the games weren't that close. They never really went down the wire." But I can't remember the last time there's been four big contenders like this who you feel have a big chance of winning Frank Fox.
Yeah, I suppose most years you'd probably have one or two unexpected teams. But like if you look at, I suppose, the way the draw worked out, like the the three the four group winners, like, and then were beaten by Tuam, right? Fair enough, Tuam were in our group, but like say the three group winners all won all their games, and then Tuam like seemed to be and appeared to be the best of the rest, and they gave Corofin plenty of it and lost by two. And like the one thing that was very impressive there is like to turn around within 4 days and
Yeah.
beat up Bellew. Like that was very impressive because I was there on the Wednesday, I was still stiff from playing championship at the weekend. So like to turn around the next day and play a championship match was very, very impressive. Like I know Mount Bellew only had an extra 24 hours, but when you're talking 4 and 5 days, and you're talking one of those days is a Sunday as opposed to a weekday, like that's massive. Because the one thing I'd always think of in terms of preparation and getting yourself right for fixtures is like how much of that time is actually weekend time. So like if you have a match on a Sunday, like that's you've all day Saturday really to kind of get your body right. Whereas if you're playing Saturday, early Saturday, you're rolling straight from a work week into the match, so you don't have as much time to get prepped for it. Like so, I thought that was very impressive. I thought probably what they gave them and Killannon probably a better opportunity of, I suppose, maybe doing well in their quarterfinals was probably the extra few days. Because I know like we played Milltown on Saturday, like you're not getting to meet up on Sunday. You're probably only getting one training session really in, and maybe one brief meeting, and that's it. Like, so it's very hard to prep for trying to make a big shock when you've only that limited time. Because like realistically, if we were to beat a Cullen or beat a Corofin, beat a Tuam or Salthill, like we're going to have to, we're going to have our game plan down. We're going to have to nail it down to a T, and the lads we paced away, like we're going to have to get a weekend with them. So we're all in the one hymn sheet, and we all know exactly what we're doing and what we're about.
But to look back at your own game first, my column 114, Utrecht 10 points. As I mentioned, the goal comes at the end where James McLaughlin fists the ball across to Peter Cook and he punches it to the net. If we can just start, obviously, because it's the big highlight from this game. Peter Cook, 1-5. Just like when you're full back and he's launching boomers like that over. What are you thinking?
I'd actually say it's uh it's possibly one of the most depressing things ever because, like, if someone runs past you or someone breaks a tackle and gets in for a score, you can really solve it right there in the game. But like, especially I suppose when you be playing in my position, it's hard to even gauge what is happening out there that's allowing the space. And then like when he's actually falling to the ground and still kicks it from 45 meters while about to fall onto the ground, you're really just like, what can we do to solve this? Like, so other than maybe someone to try do something incredibly 30, even though I don't think we'd have a player physically able to actually hurt the man. Like yeah, it's frustrating and yeah, depressing really because it's hard to gauge what you can do to solve the issue. But like it was one thing to score the 1-5, but like the 5 points when he scored them were at a key juncture. Like we're 5-2 up going into half time. Like we're in a strong position. The first half has been very nip and tuck. we're probably coming out slightly better of it. The big thing we have to be doing is not really chasing the game, because if you're chasing the game against my Cullen, like where they're strong is their hard runners coming from deep when they turn you over. So he scores 2 points on the stroke half time. One of them is an outrageous point from play. Like those 2 points are absolutely huge. Like they're what put my Cullen, like even at half time, and I think we might even gone 6-4 up after half time. But like that's what I suppose puts that bit of doubt into our heads about how we can, manage this game to victory for us.
How tough is it against that Mike Cullen system?
It's it is it's I suppose what makes it very tough is because they've great level of physicality, and they're quite content quite content to put a soft enough pressure on you, would say up high, and very content to even let you pass that ball into kind of that central area around the top of their 45, with a view to that's where they're going to turn you over. Like they, no matter what, how you wrap there, they will put huge pressure on you, and you end up inevitably either coming back to field or getting turned over. The other thing that I suppose I was very impressed with was they paid attention to what we did the week before and against Galway, and they really put a huge effort on not giving us the space, would say where the 45 meets the sideline, that area to get the kick pass into big lads at the edge of the square, and they had Sean Kelly parked right in front of them, which obviously, if nothing else, negated, I suppose, anyone's willingness to actually kick that ball. Because when you look in, right, you see your own lads in there, but then you see Sean Kelly playing right in front of them, and it's kind of like, this mightn't quite be a good idea. Even Peter Cook dropped back there a few times, and when you see lads like him and James McLaughlin drop back there, it's again like no Kelly back there. They're all big men again, so like that's not really an option. So defensively, they're very well boxed off. So you're kind of, and I suppose what affects you over the course of time, obviously they have a big squad, but what affects probably your energy levels over time is the fact you're having to work so hard to create scoring chances, because you're having to wrap and wrap and wrap to create those opportunities. So it does probably become over time, every point is a battle, which probably for them, when Cookie's kicking it from 45 meters, it's hard to say that point was a battle when there was one man from 50 yards that's kicked it over the bar. Like, so, like over the course of 60 minutes, that makes a huge difference to energy levels.
Overall, were you impressed with Mike Cullen?
Yeah, yeah, no, very impressed. Like as I said, like she's defensively very good, good enough press out kick, good enough pressing the kick out. Um, yeah, very very good team. They'll be a match. They'll be a match, as I was saying at the start. They'll be a match for anyone. Probably need Desi and Niall Walsh back, just to
Yeah,
give
I think
them.
the biggest thing for them now is getting injuries and everything right, because Desi missed the game. Niall Walsh comes off with holding hamstring.
Yeah,
Owen Kelly comes off the end holding hamstring as well.
yeah, yeah. The feeling I would have is like it may be a bit harder for them when they're playing against teams that do have 5, 6 lads coming off the bench to make an impact, and teams that possibly don't have to work as hard to get the scores, and in turn they'll have to be fresher when they're defending. Like without the two guys in there, possibly it'll be a bit easier for teams to press Peter out the field, just because you probably can go a bit more man on man instead of having to mind, because like when you've Desi, when you've Niall in there inside, you probably teams have to commit at least one to the D just to make sure they're not opened up for goals like Monavea were when they played Monavea. Like, so like, it was one thing we would have watched the video of that game, and we would have seen that they opened one of up for goals by leaving that so empty against Desi and Niall. So like it's one thing if you don't have to watch that area as closely, you can press out on Peter a bit higher up the field, which might, if nothing else, maybe keep him to 3-1-3 or 3 points as opposed to scoring 1-5. Which, like, if one lad scores 1-5, you don't in a game that's going to be played in October, you don't need a whole pile more to win the game.
Yeah, it is a great point there. Did you notice Mark McHugh having an influence on the line?
Well, he was very animated on the line, I suppose. I wouldn't be privy to their tactical setup. and I probably wouldn't have seen a huge amount of Kilcar over the years. Suppose probably the one similarity maybe they had where Roscommon plays, like if there isn't an immediate counter attack on, we'll say on that two or three hard runners can run into. If there's not open country, they'll be happy to work it up methodically and fill the wide positions and get high. And I probably don't want to be giving too much away to the Tuam Dave Donlan here now, but very happy to do that, very and work it at maybe a slower pace and then try to open you up that way, which probably would be more like we saw us coming when they were playing last year and probably to an extent this year, where they're happy to, take 45 passes before they got a shot away. Like so.
So on that, obviously, my Cullen now play Tuam Stars in the semi-final. So we'll actually look at that Tuam and down game now too, because that's obviously who my Cullen are going to play. And Tuam yesterday, if, in fairness to them, it hurts me to say this because I was obviously hoping Anna Down would be here, but they're not. But it was a really professional performance by Tuam yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was, and I was impressed. Yeah, I was far more impressed with Hume. I didn't see the Corofin game, but compared to what I'd seen up until now, from the point of view of, yeah, they all knew what they were about. The ball moves fast. Thought like they when they moved fast, and Brian Mannion, especially in the first half, was taking lads on. Like he wasn't quite getting the scores or the goals away, but like it was a threat, and it meant that as saying earlier about like for and down, when you have someone like Comer inside, if there's a big threat inside, and as kind of alluding to a bit with my Cullen, if there's a big threat inside, teams have to mind that area in front of the D. And I felt that Tuam early on showed that there was a presence inside and they could do something. So they were able to work it through the lines, which made it that bit harder for and down to keep staying in the game, I'd say. I thought they probably managed the elements probably a bit better too. I don't know what your own take on that was, but I did feel that they managed it.
I think it was massive when Tuam had a 5-3 and they got the goal right before the break.
Yeah,
It just had
yeah,
them
it
set up
was.
perfectly to play then against the
Well, at,
breeze.
at that stage, it was definitely it was huge. But like, even at 5-3, I still felt, I still honestly felt that they were probably going to be okay in the second half. Just the way they were playing, like they were going to be able to carry. I know it was a big win, but they were going to be able to carry it into the wind. Um, in saying that, like a goal and stroke after I know the 2 points Cook scores against us totally changes the way teams are thinking going into half
Mm.
time. Totally changes the demeanour. Totally changes what they're targeting. And 5 points. 5 points for Anna was going to be very difficult to come back from. 5 points at half time in any of the games at that level is going to be difficult. Just by the sheer nature of you're playing a good team. And the one thing Tuam are very good at, they're very good at they'll get plenty of numbers back, but when they're back, they'll start edging the press out towards you, and they're very good at this. So you don't get as much time to pick that pass into the forward line, which gives them great chances of creating a turnover, and probably puts a bit more pressure on the ball. It does go in not to be as good or as accurate. I thought Rory O'Connor was very good. I thought, and
Probably one
Darragh,
of the most underrated club footballers, isn't he?
yeah, I thought Darragh was very good. And I'd say like probably the last time I was chatting to two, like the two lads are excellent. And the more the championship's gone on, the more I convinced that it's such a weapon for them that like the two guys that they not only can be left fairly isolated with very good forwards, they will win the ball and they have the lungs to keep going with the ball after they win it. Like Darrow's very strong, very physical. Rory, great skill levels, well able to carry the ball up the field. Like he was hurting and down as much going back the way as he was like just by being very good defensively. Like so, like the two of them, I suppose any team that have two man markers like that, gives them great launch pad because it means the rest of the team possibly don't have to expend as much energy minding them at home. We'll say.
Yeah, even I thought too, Gary O'Donnell and Killian Reedy on the wings, they caused.
Yeah, and it's funny, Gary O'Donnell, I wouldn't be privy to what training he did earlier on the year, but I know he's heavily involved in the minors, so like inevitably probably missed a bit of training just by something like that. That'd be all. Just demand so much of your time. Like you notice as the games have gone on, like there against Turgal in the first game, he probably wasn't getting as high up the field with the energy levels he normally would. But at the weekend he was getting up there, kicked a great point. Like, his fitness levels are definitely progressing and looked far more dynamic probably compared to say the first game. So like, 2 weeks time he'll be at a different level. Killian Reedy, we'd have looked at him when we would have played Tuam more so defensively just because he has a great turn of pace. Um, and like, he's well able to break a line. So Keelan Reedy and Gary Donald on either wing, like, is going to give any team a bit of trouble there. But like for yourselves, like I thought Commons was very good, real leader at centre back. Um, and like if Joe from the outside looking in, like you'd have liked to go a bit further, but probably Tuam with the amount of players you lost, Tuam are probably a bit further down their development cycle than you are. Like Tuam brought,
Yeah.
but like Shane McGlinchey through, but at the same time, like, they have a good bit more sprinkling of, we'll say, very established players that have played 4 or 5 seasons, and then obviously the likes of Jamie Murphy has played every year since senior championship started. So, like they have probably just that bit more experienced than yourselves. Like so, like Norman O'Brien has done probably a very good
Like
job with
overall,
Key.
with the amount of players he
Yeah,
lost, I think he can deem Anna down as a successful year.
yeah, and it's something to build on because like the age profile now is like, no, like you're not going to be missing any of them lads, or maybe Frankie. Like none of the rest of them are like any bit old. Like, they're all plenty of years. So like you can build over 2 3 years and progress from like a senior quarter. It would say if a senior quarter final is your base point, you're in a good spot. Like,
For sure. The only thing that I might be a concern for me with Tuam is on their long kick out because it's 2 games in a row now against Montpellier and Annadown. They've struggled to win the ball in midfield.
yeah, it is one thing about probably Tuam, and we probably did a better job of it 2 years ago than this year because I suppose you you change your game plan to suit what went before, and against Corofin the short kick out worked very well, whereas the long kick out wasn't working well. But like if we our time back against Tuam would have gone long because like they probably don't like Shea McGlinchey's in the air is still very young.
Mm.
You're going out against very established midfielders. Paul
Bringing
Collins.
Paul Collins was obviously a reason they brought him in around the middle too.
Yeah. So like you're probably looking, but then like the rest of the team outside him, like the way it's gone, like you'll always have two reasonably tall lads in your team that can mitigate two tall lads. It's
Mm.
when you have a third and a fourth tall lad is really what you need, and they probably don't have that. Like, if you probably need 3 4 tall lads just to make sure you're safe against long kick out.
Is that a concern going forward to Mike Cullen because you obviously see the
Michael,
monsters they have to cross the
yeah,
middle?
Michael have an array of tall lads, which probably very few players under 6 foot. Probably like the Keane Dean and Desi, probably the only ones. Sub 6 foot, maybe Conor Corcoran, but I'm sure, and I'm not saying he's probably on any dating profiles, but if he was, he'd probably be nearly claiming 6 foot. So, yeah, it probably is a concern for them. Like, yeah, if you're the Mike Cullen manager, and the one thing I'd say about Mike Cullen is like their sub goalie came on, and we were kind of half saying, lovely sub goalie here, let's press this and go for broke, but he was executing, and I'd always think like a good goalie, a really good goalie is the goalie that can execute that mid-range kick, like not like loads of guys that chance their arm and goes, they can get away that really short one, or they can get
Mm.
away, we'll say the long kick out, but like the mark of a good goalie is the one that can execute the mid-range kick out, and he executed 2 or 3 of them in the second half when we probably felt we'd go press, and like so that probably isn't something Tuam can rely on. Maybe we'll say a sub goalie with a bad kick out because like he did have a very good kick out. Probably not the tallest goalie in the world, but it doesn't matter when you probably have Sean Kelly, Johnny Maloney, and probably lesser extent, probably like the Peter Cook and James McLaughlin falling back in on top of you. Like so, it is probably something my Cullen can target Tuam on. And the one thing I do always think about the long kick out that gives it a great credence in doing is you're 20, 30 yards further up the field, ready to start your attack. As opposed to like if you work the ball short, like you have whoever's ran to get the kick out has covered 20, 30 meters of a sprint. So they're not in a position really to turn around and do a whole pile of carrying the ball forward. So next man has to come and carry it forward. He'll get
Yeah,
30, 40 meters. Then someone else has to wrap. Joe, you're getting there's a lot of extra work in trying to get up the field. Like so, if my Cullen can't target that,
because
probably
it did look at stages yesterday. I know Forker played uh one or two balls short, and when Anna down pressed him, then he didn't he didn't look like he was comfortable, and then obviously Anna down go and press him, and they just didn't really look comfortable at stages to go short, and then they're not winning it long. So there definitely does seem to be
yeah.
some.
And then you're wears the way out, and like 20 minutes ago in the match, that really becomes something like it's a hard place to dig it out. Happens in the first half, you might have some hope, but like if you're 20 minutes coming down the home stretch, you might want to put on a good squeeze, and Falkland is struggling to get that out. Like no more than it down if they get the squeeze to that level. But the only thing I'd say now is like it might be weather conditions more similar to Saturday what we played in where it is that bit easier for goalies to get the kick out away. They were hard conditions in Tuam yesterday for even with the wind, like it was hard both ways on all players kicking the ball like.
The other semi-final pair in Corofin, Salthill Knocknacara get over the line 12-7. They get Robert Finnerty back on the pitch, which big positive. Evan Murphy chips in with 3 points too for them. They'll be happy enough. Like eh, it's it seems kind of similar to what they've done all year, what they did again on Saturday.
Yeah, yeah, and I suppose like the more, and I just probably said this here around here, like the more have a lot of potential, and like Gary Lynn had them very well set up, and they were always in a position that they could hurt and shock a big team. So like Salthill to probably win the way no, like tomorrow well in it up till half time and after half time. But Salthill very structured the way they're playing this year defensively. So like
Is
they're
that a change
they're
from what you've seen in the past with Salthill?
yeah, yeah, a good bit different. Like as in Salthill probably normally you'd play them and they'd have an array of forwards. They'd have an array of players throughout their team, but everybody'd want to run forward, and even the cornerbacks would want to run forward and show you how they can kick a lovely one with the outside boot from 45. Um, defensive discipline probably wouldn't be what they'd be known for. But like this year, yeah, they've shown from the get-go they're very, very happy that if they need to sit in, they'll sit in and work off the basis of like, we've plenty to go and score on the counter, but still be structured like so. Like they've done a lot of work on it this year. We played them twice in the league. Um, both times. First time they were probably a bit fresher at it by the league final now. Like they had it, it was very, very hard to break down. And I'd imagine Dumore, who no more than probably ourselves, get a lot of their scores from everyone kind of nearly running forward. They probably found that very difficult to play against. Um, so yeah, I think the one thing that will probably set up against Corofin is like they got hammered by Corofin last year. Probably again just being very naive in the way they played. They're probably very much that's not going to happen again. We're going to be in this game coming down the straight, and then it's going to be, we're going to hope that our big players come to the fore to win it for us.
All right, then, how much of positive do you think it is to get Rob back on the field?
Oh, it's a huge positive. Like Rob Finnerty, we saw when he went off for Galway this year, like what a loss he was for us. Um, Now, like, I suppose we Salt Hill with like Evan Murphy, Matthew Thompson, Charlie Power, and Tomo, like you already have an array of forwards. So when you're throwing one more forward into that mix, like it's going to be very hard for you to even Sonny Corofin to come up with the matchups to mitigate that because now you're committing. your best lad to Robert Finnerty, that's going to even leave more space for likes of Evan Murphy to get scores. So like there's no, and the fact he got good amount of game time under the belt, like he's 2 more weeks now to get himself right. So and good game time, because the more be hard to break down. So he's been right in the white heat of championship action there, like.
On the more, Gary Delaney stepped down after the match, but he really has. He's been unbelievable. Like the what he's got out of this Dunmore team.
Yeah, no, Gary's has a great run with them. He's done a great job. I I'd have said like this year, from I've watched them play 2 matches. Watched 2 of their matches now this year. Thought very well structured, playing to their strength. The whole game plan is designed for their strength. Like they probably like a lot, like if like say Tuam, they don't have particularly tall men around the middle, but it doesn't matter. Like if you want to press Conor Gleeson in near, they'll bring everyone deep and go over the top of you and be happy to go over the top and run onto it on the other side. Like so, like very well tailored to that group. Now, I'd say he was 3 years in managing them. I think like the one thing when you're managing a club team, it's and he's a young family, it's all consuming really if you're going to do it well. And it's all consuming from the point of view of like when you're managing probably county teams, you probably have a team of 20, 30 helping you. When you're managing a club team, you're trying to replicate what county teams are doing, but you probably have a team of about three. So you're carrying a lot of the workload. And I actually also remember seeing the match program when his first year, he only had 2 selectors involved with him. And I always remember, geez, like that's some workload for one person. Like it's a huge, and especially if you're managing a team to the extent of what he's doing with Dumore, where like you can see he is spending the time there. He's setting them up for every team they're playing. He has a general game plan that's very well suited to how they play. Like to do that is like that's not done in 1 year. That's not done in 2 years. That's done in 3 years. Like probably a club like Salthill, where like you've someone like say Rob Oz coming off the bench who's played Sigerson for NUIG. When you've that level of personnel, we'll say in your squad, you probably can develop a game plan probably and any type of a game plan probably in one season. You can because you have players that have a good football intellect, will understand what you're trying to do, and they'll have good football IQ and be able to understand what needs to be done. And then even on the spot when it needs to be changed, do so. But like when you probably have a younger brand of player like Demore, or you're maybe managing a smaller club, it takes a lot more time to get them to that level with a game plan. So like to do what Kerry Delaney's done has been incredible. But the one thing I'd say for say Dumore as a club, like they're still in a great position. Like they're like probably someone like Conor Gleeson's probably their oldest player maybe. With Martin Cleary probably.
If they can get Matthew Reddington back as well.
Yeah. Like no, Matthew's probably 2 years gone. But he'd still be a huge addition. But like they've a good conveyor belt at the moment of talent. Like
Yeah, they're
Colin,
in the 19s Northport final again. So
yeah, and Colin Costello will be a year older. Like there's no one like Martin Cleary is their oldest outfield player. Like he's still in great shape. Like there's no reason why he wouldn't. There'll be 3, 4, 5. He's not going to carry weight during the off season. 5 seasons in him. Like so, like you could go in there and give and target 2, 3 years of taking him to another level. No, I suppose the one thing I'd say is that other level, unless you get a good draw, is hard to
yeah,
make because like if you look at it this year, like you're talking Corofin, Salthill, Cuilinn and Tuam, like the four resource playing resource of those 4 clubs is quite it's going to take a big push to get over that like.
on Sawtill's opponents, Corofin, they get over the line yesterday against Killannon in the end. They were always ahead in the game. They never trailed, but they've kind of continued what they did all year. That's what they did again yesterday.
Yeah. I no, the only game I haven't seen is their Tuam game so far this year. And more so just because at that stage there was probably no point watching it because we are going to be playing either of them. But yeah, I suppose Corofin, like the first day against us, they launched out of the blocks like for the first probably 10, 15 minutes. You were like, are we ever going to pin these lads down? But the pace of like that I said, she earlier on about like our guy James Lowry, you know, created a great turnover, sprinted the length of the pitch and nearly stuck in Bernie Power's net. Bernie pulled off a great save. And you could kind of see there was a quick swivel in how they played us for the rest of the game then now. It went from we're going to press these lads inside our own 45, we're going to squeeze them high up the field to right, we're going to be a lot more, if they break out, we're going to make sure we've numbers back. They're not going to open us up at the back like they did. There was kind of a change in their mindset. And when I noticed when they played Kilconly now, possibly the two black cards contributed to it, but there was a big sense of, we'll say if they conceded a score of a turnover, or maybe conceded twice in a row, they were going to get numbers back if they lost the ball again. It was going to be or they'd slow the pace of the game down. It was very much a case of the second momentum swung against them, they were going to kill the match. And like probably a lot of why their score lines are probably the way they are, like they didn't probably I felt probably watching the Kilconly game, they weren't going to lose the game, we'll say. And probably the same yesterday. There was probably a certain element of like, as soon as we feel the momentum switch, we're going to kill the game. And when you kind of do that, you're probably killing 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of the game, and then it probably takes you 3 or 4 minutes to get good momentum yourself. So you're probably talking it's going to mean me keep scorelines relatively low anyway. And then the fact that the day that was in Pure Stadium, both teams did very well to score what they scored, like 113 to 110, like the weather yesterday, like you'd be tempted to. No, fair enough. I was probably worse for wears after Saturday night, but you'd have been tempted to not leave the house for the whole day. So, like, yeah, both games, the scorelines were quite respectable considering the day that was in it. But Corofin, yeah, very probably, yeah, they're probably played in third gear the whole time so far in the championship. But
But where do you feel there?
I feel they are. You'd still have to give them the respect of they're probably still the team to beat.
So you're still favourites for you to
Still
win.
having slight favourites, not so much on form, but just on the like a lot of what I've described of what they're doing. It's not so much because they fear, oh, if Uachtar changed the momentum of the game, Clannon changed the momentum of the game, Clogalla changed the momentum of the game, that they're actually going to lose. I think they'd be still very confident they'll manage to hit back. I think it's more, like I was saying about Salthill in the league this year, they're looking at how they manage that same situation when they're playing a Salthill, a Tuam, a Cullen. They're looking at how they manage that game in a real tight situation. So they're trying to build it up, muscle memory in the bank, that when they're coming down the straight, we'll say against Salthill, and the momentum is switching toward for Salthill, and Salthill are getting a run on them. We know, we know this is what we do in that scenario. We we don't give away the ball for the next 5 minutes. Or we sit back with 15 in our 45 for the next 5 minutes to make sure we don't concede heavy. Like I feel that's what they're building towards. I don't think it's a case of they like
Still is a thing with them. There's a different man though every day stepping up and attack. It was Dara Silk against Claregalway. It was Tony Gill against Tuam. It was Jack McCabe got two yesterday. Now, in fairness, Dylan Wall has probably been one of their most probably consistent players this year as well.
yeah, no, Dylan was out injured against ourselves now, but I was very impressed when we came on for 20 minutes against Claregalway, and when I watched it back, probably I wasn't as impressed. But when I was actually at the game, and I suppose sometimes watching on the video doesn't give you the full accuracy of how impressive someone can be, because when you're at a game, you can realize that if someone like Dylan Wall makes a certain play, like breaks through the middle, like he came on with 10, 15 minutes to go against us, and like when he makes those power plays where he drives through the heart of your defence, like when you watch it back on video, it mightn't seem like the biggest deal in the world, but when you're actually either playing the match or watching the game live, you realise that that's a big moment that has changed the momentum of the match. So like when he does that, it gives Corofin great belief, and it really kind of hurts the opposition when he makes those driving runs through the middle of you. Especially because if you get a good cut off him, it's nearly a handy score for someone. But like in the last 50 minutes against us, when the game was very much in the melting pot, I thought like he came on and like we still had great opportunities to get back into it to win it, but like they were hurting us. And again, it's Kilconly when he was making them in the first 40 minutes, it was swinging the momentum in Corofin's favour. And I think like probably the more game time he gets into him, like the more, because no more than the rest of us, he's getting older. Like the more game time, like Gary O'Donnell at this stage of the year, and probably because they haven't played as much, they're probably going to be very fresh come the semi-finals.
Yeah, I think the big thing that Kevin Johnson can do with his team now is like they have loads to work on. And he's probably just going to try and drive that home for the next 2 weeks. On your neighbours, Killann, like it's a fair battle because in fairness, no one even expected them to be this close at the weekend.
Yeah, people wouldn't expect that. I suppose knowing them so locally as I do, like Clannan probably in recent years when they be beaten by Corofin, they
Like in
probably had
previous years, they did get a few hammerings to Griffin.
yeah, 10 points. But like what I kind of be thinking when I was thinking about this game, I was thinking now it could easily go that way. But one thing that was kind of crossed my mind coming up to the game was where before we'll say there might have been an average lad playing in a wing or a corner position. They had someone off the under 19 team from last year. They probably had a bit of Galway development squad, a bit of county underage experience, and had a great year under 19 last year. And it's probably going into year two at senior, if not maybe year three. Like so Kent O'Connor and these lads, like, and I was kind of thinking like Kevin Walsh, Gay O'Brien, they'll have them well set up so the game won't run away from them. Like the one thing Kevin Laws get a team set is the game won't run away from them. Will rarely run away from them. So I was kind of thinking he'll have that looked after. The lads filling those positions that might have been weaker other years will be young, but will be probably better quality players. And then you have your core lads like the Sweeneys, Johnny Heaney, like that will have you like they'll bring you into they'll be well able to win their battles and they'll be well able to win other people's battles too and swing, as I say, swing momentum. And then probably even James Walsh in goals, like he's in year three now, I'd say, being in goals, well, year two anyway. So like he's actually turning into a good quality goalie as opposed to just an outfielder being in goals, would say. So like I was kind of no to run them to 3 points probably. I probably thought it would have been maybe 4 or 5. I didn't anticipate it to be much more than that because I would be very cognizant of Corofin probably have a focus on what to do when they're focused on the way they're playing at the moment with bigger fish to fry. And that probably is a more conservative way of playing, which means they're not probably going to blow you out of the water they would have other years.
Just before we look at the intermediate Eddie, Berna 113, Monavea Abbey 10 points. Huge result here for Berna. It sends Monavea Abbey into the relegation playoff final against Casheran. Casheran lost 1-9 to 4 points to Clare Galway. It's no big surprise that Casheran are in this final, but for Monavea Abbey, it's a disappointing year, particularly after they get a draw with James's, and since then they haven't really been able to recover. And a year after coming up, they're in a relegation final.
Yeah, at this point in the year, no, I suppose the one thing, not to swivel to Barna there, but what I would say about Barna is Barna had a poor league, but Barna probably aren't that bad of a team. Like that group four, probably in hindsight, would say it was probably better than people gave it credit. Um, Whereas possibly would say, the other group mightn't have been as strong. But what I would say is very disappointing for Monterey, but like it's the one thing about we learned this ourselves like year one, year two, and senior, like just getting wins, just getting wins in senior championship matches is hard and has to be kind of built up over years rather than hitting the ground running. Like the more they've shown improvement year on year, like and the more would have been probably I'd considered an above standard intermediate team getting promoted, like.
Yeah, this
And
was the first year they ended up in the knockout stages.
yeah, like it's you kind of like, and we were so naive when we came out of intermediate because we were like, yeah, we're great lads, whatever. Now, I suppose probably when you spend COVID watching yourselves over and over and over playing good football, you probably think you're a lot better than you are. But like, we're so naive to like what is actually required to win senior championship games. Like, you're kind of when you to win intermediate, talent will win it for you. As in, like if you have the 15 best guns on the pitch, you'll probably win that match. Whereas senior, senior 15, the 15 best players on the pitch won't win you anything unless you have good structure, you're well organized, you're well put together, you've done your homework on the opposition. Like the 15 best players will win you league matches. But when it comes to senior championship games, it won't. So, like for Monavea now, it's just important to get over Carristrand
Do you think
and
they will?
build on it. Yeah, I'd say probably you probably have to be backing them to. I suppose, but the big issue for both teams is probably an inability to possibly score enough.
Yeah.
Um, it's probably a bit of an issue. So what I'd say is, as the evenings get shorter and we say the pitches get worse, the scoreline would probably go down. So that probably might become at the moment you'd have to have the same one of A favourites. But yeah,
It's
they're
really
still.
a horrible 2 weeks now. Like, you're just
Oh,
training for this.
it's funny, Paul, because we were in relegation 3 years ago, and no, again, it was one of those years we were in the group of death, like, and we like Joe, we had, it was a group of six, but still, we had my Cuilinn, Tuam, and Corofin, and like, it's a disaster when you get a group like that because you're nearly straight away thinking, Jesus, we're facing into, but it was the year they had a round robin, and like the thing stretched out to nearly November. Now, in fairness, we were winning and we were winning quite well in it. So there was a certain part of at least you finish it off with we drew with Monday in the first day, but we bet James's and we bet Carroll very comfortably. So you get a bounce off that, like, and like what I'd say is probably out of the teams that end up in relegation, like Barna will be coming out of it with a bounce. Clare will come out with a certain level of a bounce because, like, if you're in their camps, if you're in Barna, you're saying, well, Bar, Clannon, you're kind of in all the games. You bet Milltown, your 2 wins on the bounce finishing up. If you're Clare you're looking at it, well, the group was obviously strong, like, you know, like all 4 teams made it to the quarter. Oh, sorry, all 3 teams made it to the quarter, but like Clare would have been like had they beaten us and played Milltown, like they had a strong chance of beating Milltown to get to the quarter. Like so, like they'll, but it's going to be very difficult for the 2 weeks for the two clubs and trying to figure out how they're going to dig it out from here. So it is, yeah. I don't think both teams have good management. Like Mike Farrer with Bunty there will be very shrewd, very well thought out. Then you'll have Neil McHugh and Barry McCabe for Carristrand. Like they'll, both teams probably will see opportunities. It's just at this moment in time, yeah, you probably would have to have one of the as favourites. But as I say, like as the scorelines drop a bit more, probably Killian McDade will probably really have to come trumps from one of it because it'll be type of game. Probably a 1-6, 1-7 will probably win it.
Yeah, definitely. I
I,
think
I
I
I think
think
even less. I think a 1-5. I think 1-5 will nearly win that game. It'll get because in 2 weeks'
one
time,
five, yeah.
yeah, I actually think I think it will get to that. I think it will get to that level that like no, it could turn out it ends up a perfect day and have a shootout. But like you are talking, you're 2 weeks into October with 2 teams that probably weren't clearing 8, 9 scores in the good weather. Like so, that'd be kind of my feeling about it. But like, it's important for Motivate at this stage now to get that win under the belt and look at what.
It's only like before we look at the intermediate, it's only gonna become harder and harder to come up now.
Yeah, yeah. It is, and I even noticed in the last few years, like since you've gone to 16 teams, the standard has definitely risen. Um, you're talking if you don't fancy yourself making a quarter final, you're probably in the relegation mix.
Yeah. It's hard to avoid it now, like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's getting to that level, like that. If you don't see yourself, if you don't see how you can beat teams to get to the quarter final, you're probably looking at the quarter. You're looking at relegation. Whereas when I was younger and it was 20 teams in senior, you'd have teams that wouldn't make quarters from one year to the next, and they'd never be coming down. Like,
If we're to look at the intermediate, Eddie, a team, myself and yourself tipped from the very outset of the start of the year, Micheál Breathnach'S. Uh, Kilconly 12, Micheál Breathnach'S 10. It's safe to say we got that wrong.
very wrong, very wrong. And I was tipping Spittle from the outside too, but we saw a good chunk of that game. Now, so we did, and it was.
What I heard, it sounded like Kilconly made very hard work of this.
Yeah. Kilconly got off to a flyer and then proceeded to just be turned over. It seemed to just be because he getting turned over very easily. It was kind of like, and I remember the last time I was chatting to you, and I was chatting about say James and Motivate, how like sometimes you can get off to a flyer and then you start making mistakes and momentum swings against you. And it looked like for a large portion of the first half, because Kilkenny had a strong wind, that's what was going to happen. It stopped utilising it. I think what was it, maybe 7-3 at half time. Something anyway, it looked ripe for Brannox to come back into it. But like we probably missed the last 20 minutes then because we had to go and get targeted ourselves. But like I did feel looking at it, the, the energy probably wasn't in Brannock's. It didn't look to seem to have that. Like even when Kilconly were getting turned over and the energy was shifting out of Kilconly, wasn't exactly Brannock's weren't exactly getting that championship pump, we'll say, from generating those turnovers. So like, but Kilconly are a good team. They're well seasoned at getting to the latter stages of the intermediate championship. The Paul Mannion back in the ranks, which for them is massive. Um, so like
Prendergast back too, yeah.
Pendergrass back, like that's a huge at that level. That's huge. At any level, that's huge. Like if you're missing two marquee forwards, for any club outside, I would say your top four and senior, you're behind the eight ball. So as soon as they're them back, and they're probably in a age-wise, their main players are probably at a better moment. We'll
Yeah,
say
it's a big one considering they're beaten by 13 points in their last game, like to get this
to
back
turn
on
around
track.
now. Yeah, that was very impressive. But like Brendan's have it in them to run goals into teams.
Yeah,
And
and
like
it's just a game we're actually going to touch on there, like Brendan's and Corofin. Like I don't think people realize how big it is to beat that Corofin blue
a
team. Like,
team like you'd look at it on paper and that Corofin team would be a grand senior team like.
yeah,
But like the one thing, and I saw that I was just chatting in the house here at home yesterday, was like when it gets to knockout football, it's probably worth a few points to you when this is all that matters to you. Like,
yeah, yeah,
do you know, as in like this for Brendan's Ballygar, like this our first team. This matters. This is whereas for those Corofin lads, they're probably when it comes down to straight, there's probably a certain element of, well, I still have to have a good game because I'm building my career with Corofin, as opposed to like if you're playing for Brendan's, sure, what career is there if you get knocked out in championship? Like, Joe, it's do or die. Whereas like if you're 19, 20-year-old in Corofin, like, there's always that college team. There's always that other team that you are making because you are that good of a footballer. Whereas if you're Brendan's Ballygar, your season's over. That's that. So like that does matter. And I suppose like when you get to this time of year, the chance of Corfin's quality blowing them out of the water also kind of, is limited because as I've alluded to about 100 times already, the weather conditions play a factor. The scoreline is only going to go so high. So like that does matter. And then like you can be sure like the Brendan's Ballygar, I actually remember them playing Claregalra's juniors in Lakeview a few years ago. And it was a home game for Claregalra's junior team. And it was Brendan's first team. And I remember down because I was living in that estate and remember going down and watching it. And the crowd they brought was one of the vociferous crowds I've ever witnessed. And it was a home game for Claregalway. And I tell you, if you're I'd say it didn't feel like a home game out on the pitch now. I'd say it felt like a home game for Ballygar. And Joe, when it's knockout championship, and Claregalway had a very good junior team out that day on paper as well. Like when it comes to it, and you have a club like Brendan's Ballygar, and they love their GA, like that does play a factor. It plays a large factor because if you took the jerseys off and you put them playing in Loch George and it was a training match, like that Corofin team probably would win. Like,
So Brendan's obviously there. They advanced to the quarter final along with Kilconly. Kilconly now play Caltra in the quarterfinal of the Intermediate Football Championship. And for St. Brennan's, they now face Ormore Mary. Another team that surprised a few this weekend was Glenmaddie. Um, a big result for them over on Spiddale.
Yeah, like Clan, and one thing I enjoy playing against Clan and I enjoy watching Clan because they like they can play very off the cuff at times. But the one thing I was very surprised by the result because no more than probably a Brendan's or a Kilconly, they've been very much like mixing the mix of brilliant form with the not so
Yeah.
brilliant form. Um, like it's where Spill looked like they were starting to gather a bit of momentum. Like you would have had to have kind of been fancying Spill there just because they were winning games after a bad start. Like whereas then Maddie were kind of winning the game, losing the game, well beaten by Oranmore, which would have hurt them. Like to lose by that much to an Oranmore team. So like it's hard to know with a lot of these teams where they're at. But the only thing I'd say now is like Glenamaddy, because they have an ability to really play off the cuff football. And I've seen where we played them in a challenge match years ago and bet them by about 20 points. And then I saw them in a junior county final and they were one of the most impressive teams I've seen win a junior county final. Like so, like they have that ability to bounce back from like an absolute no-show and then produce a brilliant performance. So like yeah, it was a big shock to him to beat Spittle for probably for me looking at it with like Spittle were starting to pull a good team together. But yeah, Glenmaddy, listen, they're well seasoned at that level. They've been knocking on the door of Division Three League as well. So they probably are back in the top eight deservedly.
They now play Clifton in the quarterfinal. Michaels, who face St. Gabriel's, they did enough yesterday against Corofin. Didn't set the
You
world alight,
know,
but job done.
Harlow missed 1-1 coming down the straight, which could have made it a bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
I would say it was an okay performance from Michaels, and Michaels so far in intermediate have been okay considering like they have on paper be a very good team. Their second team is a good quality team in primary junior championship. Their third team is junior A championship. They've clearly from that they've plenty of players.
Mm.
Won the minor A now, what, probably 4 years ago. They should be in a very good spot. But the only thing I'd say now is Michaels, even when they were senior, they're the type of club, they don't score heavily, but they don't concede heavily either. Like even when they were senior and they end up getting relegated, like the best did go against Montpellier or did go out against Corofin and they wouldn't concede heavily, but they wouldn't score particularly heavy either. Like so probably intermediate season so far has been a reflection of that like probably ordered more bet them because it was a sunny day and the score line, the game took on life of its own and the score line just went too high for what Michaels will ever score. Whereas, like, as like that now in Tuam where the score line was going to be that bit lower, like Michaels can eke out them wins and be like at the same time, it's one of those games you're watching, cartoon possibly were never threatening winning it. Like,
Yeah, I know Corofin fully dropped off the Michaels kick out yesterday.
yeah, and they were always going to find it hard, probably to win that game. And watching it, I
Uh, Frank Daly
can't say
seemed to
you're
be
right.
instrumental. He's in for Michaels in midfield yesterday.
Oh,
Frank Daly.
Frank Daly was outstanding. Don't worry, I was paying close attention to Frank now because I'll tell you, Frank wasn't even young when I started playing. I, I actually remember, I remember my first ever league game was against Michaels and Frank Daly. Frank Daly at that stage was probably 20 or 21 at that stage. And he was their main man in midfield then. So like Frank is some warrior and he's some game now, scoring points to beat the band. But yeah,
Because I know it was last year he went back to the junior A's and he wasn't actually playing for the.
started this year in the juniors. But
Yeah.
I suppose when your second team is junior championship and a lad like Frank is going well at that level, like you're talking, you're only one division up above it or whatever. So you can kind of say, right, the lad's ready for road. Like so. Um, Frank had a very, very good game. Big threat for scores. Probably he'd have been the top scorer yesterday, probably.
Yeah, I know Ethan Ferentini. I think he got two from wing forward. Number 12 for Michael's yesterday, Ethan Ferentini. Previously would have played goal minor for people.
Yeah, yeah, Florentine. But did Frank did not score three?
Oh,
No.
he did, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was their top scorer, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I was thinking, I was kind of, I wouldn't count the rest of them because I wouldn't care as much. But I was counting Frank Daly scored. You're kind of thinking, geez, maybe there's another year of myself. Like that's how you're kind of hankering towards. But yeah, no, very impressive. And he'd bring great know-how, great experience to that group. Canaan still going. Like he's still at a good age for that level. He's probably at your best type of age, as in like you're not going to be losing legs, but you want to have plenty of experience. Yeah, like Michael's they're probably still the team to beat because like
So
one,
Michael's are favourites for you to win intermediate.
I'd have them as favourites purely because like no, I haven't seen much more and more, but I know from we Jerry Fahey managed us years ago in Uachtaráid, and Jerry now at the time he might have changed since he got older, but he would be very, very much you win your battle, and we're going man on man. And I know that his last stint in charge of Old Moore, he hadn't changed from that. He was very much we're man on man here, and you win your battle. And that's lovely on a nice sunny day there, where you'll outscore teams that aren't as good as you. But when the scoreline comes down a bit, you might need that bit more cuteness that Michaels might have. Like Joe Michaels mightn't score heavy, but they'll still score your 1-9, 1-10, 1-11, no matter how bad the conditions get.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a case here that you could have the majority of the quarterfinal winners coming from the preliminary quarterfinals.
Yeah, there's a strong case for that. But see, it makes a huge difference too. Like I actually think David, so like we would have and I'd be very careful how I say this, a slight disadvantage going into a quarter final with only week on week. But now you deserve it because you didn't top your group. So you deserve to be disadvantaged that way.
Yeah.
You're in lucky territory. You don't deserve any benefit. Whereas I think the group winners are at a disadvantage because I think 4 weeks of a layup like is not that's not good. Like that's like it's hard to get challenge matches. It's hard to get good quality challenge matches because at this time of year, a challenge match, it is a real challenge match because teams like if we'll say if Eddie O'Sullivan has an eagle, he's going to be mining for the challenge match. So what quality you're not getting a good quality out of it. Whereas the teams that are playing preliminary, like they're 2 weeks on 2 weeks, which is nearly your ideal preparation. Like and you can't again like you're talking smaller clubs, so how hard can they train over the 4 weeks? Like
On the relegation, Eddie, we do the predictions obviously every week on the podcast, and I went strongly with Little Ireland to win this, and I was looking at what's the score during the match, and like I was probably silly, probably to doubt Williamstown. Like it's some spirit considering everything that's been thrown at them this year. Little Ireland scrape over the line 8-7.
yeah. Well, the one thing is Williamstown have like there's some fight in them, like because like I remember them playing Kilconly in the intermediate final a few years ago, like and there'd be no love lost either between them two clubs now that I think of it because the two of them were nearly bringing each other to court that time over an ineligible player or something back. I think Iron Islands I think we're trying to get Williamstown thrown out or something. But anyway, like Kilconly had a very good team in that intermediate final, and like Williamstown were able to bring it down the stretch. And I know myself from playing them in league and intermediate years ago that like they just plenty of fight. And I suppose when you've a lad like Gary Kelly playing, you're guaranteed you're guaranteed 5 points anyway. Like
Mm.
so, like if you can show enough fight that and the thing about these relegation battles, they're probably going to be in a worse pitch than championship matches because as you know, like Joe no more than Clare had to play their championship match out in Milltown, like they go into more secondary pitches, like so you're probably talking scoreline again, and I'm rehashing myself. It's that bit lower. So if you can guarantee 5 points from one lad, you now only need 3, 4 points, and maybe a goal off some lad to win the game. Like so, now for a club like Williamstown, it might be lacking firepower, but you've great fight. You now have a great chance of winning and competing in that match. Like,
Yeah, so on that, the Little Ireland are safe. Williamstown play Kilkerran or Menlaw. That game takes place um next weekend.
You were
Just
missing me, Paul, just at that point, not to cut across, but to mention, because he told me to mention it. Dec Murphy's been a huge loss for Kilconly and Clonburn. He reckons the muscle mass on his shoulders has dropped because he's no longer carrying Johnny Ryan all year long in the forward line. He was carrying Johnny Ryan on his two shoulders the whole time.
Did he text you that long in advance?
No, no, he just said he the kind of word he wanted to mention. So,
Yeah,
and
no.
I knew he was always carrying Johnny, so
You have to get it in.
I had to get it in.
Just then on the primary two junior over the weekend, Salthill bet Corofin, so they play Montbellion Law, and Clare Galway play Tuam Stairs. Tuam Stairs bet Michaels, so they're the two semi-finals. Then there's a final, and the winner of that competition plays then the winner of the junior championship. Junior championship has at North and West Board finals. So Hepburn play Kilraran in the North Board final, and Carrow play Carnacastle in the Westboard final. Who do you expect to come up from junior, Eddie?
I'd be anticipating Caro. Um, no, I was chatting to a couple of lads from Kildare this morning now, and they were telling me every reason why they'll be well able for them if they get there. But I would have to, I would be anticipating Caro. Like Caro probably suffered from maybe hanging on in senior a bit too long past their sell by date. And Joe, when you're losing and losing and losing and losing, it's awful hard to stop the rot. Like, but like they're still a decent team. And Monas over them, they'll be well put together, well organised. Yeah, I'd anticipate them to come up there, and I'd probably anticipate them to give the Connacht series a good rattle too. Now, Killeran have Tom Hughes over them. Like Tom, be very astute, great experience, managed plenty of Galway development teams, managed plenty of GMIT teams. But and Mikey Boyle, like serious score getter there, like, but probably, yeah, I suppose
I
we're
think
in a
there'll be
mixture.
nothing between Hepburn and Kilrain though, unless
Yeah, yeah, and then like Birmingham for Hertford, like he's been okay so far this year, but you'd expect him to start showing a bit of form for them. And what you call his name is escapes me. Actually played with Galway Juniors 4 or 5 years ago. He's back with them. He's doing kind of most of their scoring. I can't think of his name anyway.
Aaron McDonough, is it?
Aaron McDonough, yeah, very like the one thing that struck me when I played with him, like serious athlete, like very athletic, well able to take a score. Like he hasn't played for a few years due to injury, and he's back, which is a great addition for them. No, don't think you'd obviously say like if they'd Podge calling him now, you'd be really fancying them, but
Yeah.
probably yeah, probably I think like Kilrain probably have the better marquee forward out in the pitch, more experienced marquee forward out in the pitch, and I think like probably at that level, and we are in the midst of winter football. Uh, the better marquee forward probably will win the day for you.
Yeah, so that's how the junior championship is progressing, but that's all we do have time for on today's show. Thanks everyone for listening, and thanks a million to Eddie for coming on.